Greetings one and all, this is Lloyd Brown. Welcome social media family to my vlog. We've got a special guest here today. I don't even know why I'm even calling him special. He's just a regular smuddy. But I'm going to introduce somebody really special. Come in, sweetness. Come in, Chris. Come talk to the people. This lady, come sit down. She is a... This lady here is an up-and-coming YouTuber. What is your name?
The Real Honesty. The Real Honesty.
The Real Honesty. The Real Honesty. Now, she's setting up a YouTube channel, and as you can see, she's such a beautiful young lady, and she is the daughter of the guest that I got coming in. You know, because I recognize a young Nubian empress when I see one. I recognize royalty when I see royalty. You know what I mean? So you have to just introduce the royalty before you get to the lower echelons of guests that we got here. I had to scrape him up from somewhere. So it is really good to meet you. Really good to meet you. It's good to have something beautiful grace the screen. Because we want to get our viewers to just see something beautiful and then have to let them down gently. Real gentle, like, okay? Okay then. You can leave that. Oi, come in.
Wow.
You hooligan.
Wow.
Now,
the chat.
The bad news there. This is the bad news here.
The chat.
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe it. I hope I'm getting such a nice introduction as well, you know. In fact, you know, before you even get started, let me get it in real quick. Before anything.
Just
Red Army! Red Army! Cause it's your son. Alright, fine, we can talk music now.
Right, okay.
Musically speaking.
Well, I was gonna put a public health warning because I was gonna say that this broadcast is gonna contain some dark football argument. And I already stated to the true honesty right here that if her father mentions Arsenal, Red Army, anything with red in it, that she must slap him real hard.
Now, why would you encourage a young person to disrespect their parents? Lloydie.
You know what? He's bringing the old school to me. So when he's bringing the old school thing, I can't argue with that. But when I say slap him, I mean verbally slap him and say,
that can't work. No,
please, Daddy.
As Shabba would say, that couldn't happen in a family yard. That couldn't happen someone a fraud. No, can't.
As you can hear, my guest that I've got on today, he's got a lot to say. He's very verbal and his vocabulary is extremely large. Too large for some, I'd say. But I want to introduce you to not only a colleague, I want to introduce you to a good friend of mine, known him for years, known him since dirt. And his name is Kennedy Mensah, otherwise known as the Prezedent. Prezedent in the resident. Now, for those who don't know who this dude is, he is the CEO of a publishing company called Back to the...
Representing. Back to the Future representing.
He's always prepared. He's always prepared. And basically, he runs a company called Back to the Future, which deals with publishing. Now, I can safely say and honestly say that he represents me. I'm in his books. In fact, I was one of the first people on his books. You know, so that's why the royalty checks are getting a little bit fatter and fatter and fatter. With all the full endorsement me I give, you get what I'm saying? But I think we might have to turn this into a two-parter because this gentleman's got a lot to say and it is invaluable, his experience in terms of publishing, because in show business, a lot of people concentrate on the show, but they neglect to deal with the business element, and that is the business of having your songs recompense when they're being played in certain territories or in certain venues and such like. So I'm just going to leave it to Prezedent for him to explain what his job is. And first I'm going to ask you exactly what is your role in terms of publishing and what is involved.
Okay, well before I even go there, I gotta say you almost saved yourself with that introduction there. We almost got a nice introduction. I mean, wow, I was beginning to wonder who you were talking about there for a minute. You know what I mean? Especially after the way you oived me in the door. I'm looking around thinking, who name oi? I know me that. So okay, boy, it's a bit of a one to.
Okay, well let me ask you first.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you about your CV. How did your career start? Because it didn't actually start in publishing. It actually started in journalism. You was a hack. You was the paparazzi.
No hack to my team. No time. Actually, as you say that,
yeah,
it was or is it? It's currently the anniversary of Lady Diana's, Princess Diana's passing, right?
Yeah.
And at that time when she passed away, I used to have to describe myself as a DJ, because if you were a journalist, you were getting daggers, mate. Because you paparazzi, you lot killed Princess Di, didn't you? So nah, sir. No, I don't think I was ever a hack.
Okay.
No, hack is a derogatory term for a tabloid journalist, and I was never quite tabloid. No matter how much Dotun Adebayo tried to say, look, you need to be a bit more sensational with your reporting. What he did do though is he made me look at artists from a more superstar viewpoint. So when I was describing something, like I remember when Peter Honeygale had his first #1, and it just so happened that he had #1 and #2 as a solo artist. And the way I described it, the next time he saw me, he couldn't stop spadding me. He was like, yeah, man, I just love the way how you just explain it and you frame it and it just make it feel like something.
He can sell himself, can't he?
Well, sometimes. So an abridged version of how we came in this business. It's 1989. I'm at college. Don't know where I'm going next. And so I'm doing my A-levels. And there's a course starting in Vauxhall College called Introduction to Journalism from a Black Perspective. So I go on that with a view to doing some radio journalism. Unfortunately, they didn't build a studio in the college until about 3 years after I'd left. So I wound up doing print journalism. So I do the course. They encourage us to do some freelancing. I do some work experience at the Voice newspaper, and then about 6 months after that, I approached them to actually write for them. By the time I'd written for them, I'd actually written for Music Week before them. I didn't actually know...
Oh, Music Week?
Yeah, I didn't know how big Music Week was at that time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're in America right now, you know about Billboard. Music Week is basically the equivalent of Billboard over here. So when I approached The Voice, I went with clippings from Music Week.
Right, okay.
But it was only a review. Dotun saw it's like, yeah, well, it's a review, so we know you can write reviews, but can you do like an interview or anything? And then Sanchez was coming to town. This is early 1990.
Okay.
Sanchez is hot to trot. You know, Amazing Grace. Had he done Sorry by then? I don't think Sorry had come out yet. But Amazing Grace was the big tune that he was touring on.
So that was what, 88? I think Sorry...
No, 1990.
I'm so sorry it came out 89, 90. But anyway.
I think you may be right. So yeah, so Sorry was already big, but the big tune of the time that it was that and Sanchez the come to rule. Them time there, Sanchez was the man.
Right.
So I remember at the time I was working for in the wholesalers, and I was telling my brethren that I'm gonna interview Sanchez. What? D Sanchez D, and I'm like, yeah, man. And I was a little bit nervous. So anyway, Sanchez was like my audition, if you like.
Right.
So I did the interview with Sanchez, and they ran it. It just so happened that Dotun, who was the arts editor at The Voice at the time, was also leaving to go to America for 6 months. So at the time that I phoned him, and even when I phoned him, I was a bit reticent about phoning because there was this argument raging in the letters pages. Because every 10 years or so, The Voice run this article that Reggae died with Bob Marley.
Okay.
And he'd just written one of those articles. So him and Linton Kwesi Johnson were having a back and forth.
Right.
Dotun arguing that Reggae died with Bob Marley. Linton saying, you're mad. Reggae's still alive and kicking and ready. And the letters pages were full. So at this time now, my girlfriend of the time was like, yeah, you should call The Voice. And I'm like, no, but there's this article that Dotun just wrote. He doesn't like reggae. So when I phoned up, I said to Dotun, I'm a freelance journalist, but I have to warn you that I specialise in reggae. The man started laughing in italics. He's like, Michael, there's a kid on the phone. Says he has to warn me that he specialises in reggae. So he says, I like your style, kid. Come in, let's have a chat. So I go and chat to him, and this is where the serendipity happens, that he was leaving like the next week.
Okay.
And I just happened to call him now. So there was a young lady called Sarah who was actually, I think she was on work experience at that time as well. She was supposed to do the Sanchez interview.
Right.
But in fact, it was a Sanchez press conference. So she was supposed to go. Don was like, do you mind if I let him go? Because, you know, he says he specialises in reggae. She's like, no, man, go ahead, go ahead. So I always got to be eternally grateful to Sarah. She goes by the name Lady Panache these days. So thank you, Sarah, wherever you are.
Lady Panache, big up. If it
Big
wasn't
up your chest.
If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be having this hooligan right here. This Emirates Stadium hooligan on my chair in my yard right now. So thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's a press conference. I turned. Actually, it wasn't too far from here. It was in Stratford.
Right.
There's a gentleman called Colin Robinson. He was the promoter of the time, and he used to do some of Sanchez's management.
Oh, okay.
So I went to his place. It's just behind the Rex. So I get there nice and early. My girlfriend of the time, like I'm saying, bought me brand new dictaphone. Sitting there waiting. We're sitting there waiting. Come 1 o'clock, Evening Standard leave. Who else was there? Evening Standard was there. There was a couple of bigger newspapers.
Right, right.
By the time it got to about 3 o'clock and he's coming, it was just left me and I think the Gleaner. So the Time Out were there. Everybody gone. So the press conference basically turned into an interview.
Right.
So I got to interview Sanchez one-on-one and took the article in. As I'm saying, Dotton was leaving for America. So by the time I took it back, I took it to Michael Odell.
Okay.
Michael Odell now, lovely guy, but he's a white man of Irish parentage.
Right.
He basically came to The Voice because at the time The Voice were trying to start a commercial magazine. So they brought Michael in to come and work on that. And then that folded and Michael was now brought into The Voice. So I remember when I was writing, a lot of time people were like, why is this white brother the arts editor or the music editor for The Voice? And that's how he basically got in.
Okay.
But he knew his stuff. He knew his stuff on the like the R&B and hip hop kind of stuff. He knew his thing, so it was all good. But he couldn't spell reggae. So when I came on board, it was like, phew! Like, there you go. So then I'm interviewing Gregory Isaacs. It's like, there you go. Then there's a brother called Roy Shirley. He's like, there you go. And I'm like, Michael, there's not a lot of reggae in the paper. And when there is any reggae, it's me writing it. So how about I write a reggae column? He's like, that's a good idea. Go and speak to Steve. That's Steve Pope, who was the editor of the whole paper.
Oh, okay.
So then I go and speak to Steve. I'm like, Steve, how about I write a reggae column for the paper? He says, well, if Michael says it's okay, so it's okay. I says, Michael says it's okay. He says, if Michael says it's okay, then it's okay. So it's okay. So then I go and write this this column, and I called it the Ragazine.
Ragazine.
The Presidential Ragazine. It was a concept that I'd started when I was studying, again at Vauxhall College. And we were doing a college magazine, and I was going to write the music pages. So that's when I started it. Then my best friend at that time, a brother called Danny, going out with this girl called Julia. Julia had a cousin who was starting a magazine, and he needed a reggae writer. At that time, I'm DJ Next Door Neighbour. So, you know, when people are having a birthday party, Cole Kennedy, he's got lots of records, so he just come and play. So I would just come with my records, and then people started to ask for certain tune. And even though you may not like them certain tune, I now found out I was having to buy the tunes that people were asking for.
Okay.
So then as a DJ now, it's not just my collection anymore. So now I become a better DJ. So I'm a party DJ, but now, because of that, they know me with the music, and then I start the journalism, so they know I'm doing the journalism. So when the cousin started the magazine, I get involved, and that magazine was called EX, and it was run by a gentleman called Rauf. Very eccentric brother from Brixton, always walks with a walking stick, and no matter what time of the year, he greets you with Merry Christmas. So if you've ever met Raoul, you ain't gonna forget him in a hurry.
God, who's these guys on your friends list, man?
So that was where the magazine was very first published.
Right.
In a magazine called EX Magazine. It was supposed to be like a black version of Time Out.
Okay.
But it didn't last that long.
Right. So how long in total did your tenure at The Voice writing the magazine column? How long did that last for?
6 years.
6 years.
Yes. So from May the 1st, 1990 until October, I think it was the 16th, 1996.
Wow.
Yes. So we were in there. So if we have 52 weeks in a year, we were in there maybe 49.
Okay.
Because this is how much respect they had for our music. I had a strip, if you recall.
Yeah, I remember.
I had a strip down the side of the page.
Yeah.
And sometimes the strip would be like in that corner. Sometimes we'd be down there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I might get a half a page. Other times people would phone me like, I can't find it. I can't find. You're not in the paper this week. And I'm like, hold on. Yes, I am.
Consistency. That's what we like. That's what we like here.
Look at that dot. And then in, was it 93?
Yeah.
So there were a couple of watershed moments there. So there was one in about 91, 92.
Right.
When we had the Bogle. And The Voice was doing a...
Hold on, for the younger people who might be watching, right, who don't know what the Bogle is, right? Prezedent's gonna give you an example of how to do the Bogle badly.
You're gonna have to give me a beat then, innit?
Alright, that's enough. I wanna keep my fans. Okay, but that is an example of what the Bogle is, ladies and gentlemen. Badly.
So that was created by a gentleman called Gerald Levy, otherwise known as Mr. Bogle. So called because apparently he looked like one of Jamaica's national heroes, a gentleman called Paul Bogle. Yeah. So you had the Bogle come out, and that just there was a couple of, it was a bit of a perfect storm.
Right.
Because we had Stone Love, and when Stone Love came out, they changed the way that people played music.
Right.
So the first exponents were Nasty Love, of the way Stone Love did their thing. So Nasty Love would come, and they were playing with 2 turntables, and it was quite exciting. But then Asher World came, and Asher World took it a step further. So they were playing with the 2 turntables, but they were mixing it seamlessly. And at that time, that was the time when we were calling it Ragga, post Shabba. So we have the Ragga, and you had these girls in all sorts of accoutrements.
Let's say.
Yeah. Or some see-through things. And
let's say.
You have to go into the dance wearing sunglasses because otherwise you're going to be caught looking at something you shouldn't be looking at. But why are you showing me if you don't?
Yeah, they were making their own video like out of their own clothes.
Wow, that was a nice time. Yeah. And then they were doing this whining dance. So you'd have all these girls just there. Whining.
Yeah, because it was the Bogle and the Butterfly. I remember it was the Butterfly.
Yes, but the Bogle comes after the music has changed.
Yeah, sure.
So the music has changed, then we start getting all the dances.
Yeah.
So you get the Bogle, the Butterfly, the Armstrong, and then you get the Santa Barbara, the Whirl Dance, all of them dances. That's before we get into the do the bones, the Willie Bones, and the Get Jiggy With It, and the Signal the Plane, and that's all the way. That's much later.
Much later, yeah.
But Mr. Bogle, that period was kind of like my heyday.
Right.
So they were doing a pull-out, a music pull-out for the Christmas edition. And I had, I think, a 10-page spread in there. So the reason why I remember Mr. Bogle so much was because we did a photo shoot of him doing all of these different moves.
Right.
And we did like a collage of it. So there was that, and there were all these weird and wonderful names. Like we had a Duckman, a Tiger, We had a lion man, and then an elephant man. So I went to town,
right?
And we also had buju. So that was one thing. The pull-out was one thing. Then there was a drinks company who was saying that they wanted to get into the youth market, and that drinks company was Pink Lady.
Yes.
Now when we were going house parties, yeah, Pink Lady had the worst rep.
It did.
Pink Lady had the worst rep because it was like what of a better word, a cheap
baby
Prosecco, if you like.
Yeah.
So when you're going to a bottle party, you buy Pink Lady because that's all anybody could afford.
Yeah.
But they were trying to revamp their image, and they were trying to get into the youth market. So when they approached the Voice was like, right, we've got the right man for the job. And so they were going to sponsor the magazine. Problem was, I'd had an argument with the Voice at that time. Am I really going to talk these things?
Talk the things.
There was a problem. They got sued, and they had to pay a whole load of money. So then they said, right, we're not paying any more freelancers. We can't afford freelancers anymore.
Right.
And I was always a freelancer. So I'm like, what? You're not paying? All right, then I'm not writing. So I kind of went on strike. That's when Pink Lady came in. So they've got this column that they're about to get sponsorship for, but the columnist is no longer here.
Right.
My strike lasted for about a month, maybe. Don't think anybody bloody noticed. However, I'll tell you one thing. I think somebody must have noticed, because there's a story that I tell of how I know how our industry players can be quite fickle.
Right.
So I go to a dance, and I have it as it was the Academy. It was either the Academy or the Island. It was one of them kind of venues. So I'm talking to this brother, like say I buck you up in a dance, and
right.
I'm like, yeah, how you doing? He's like, yeah, how you doing? And he's like, you still writing for the paper? I'm like, boy, not anymore, you know. And I look at the stage, and then where's he gone? man disappeared. And I was like, raw, I thought we were good. But apparently we were only good because I was writing.
Yeah.
I was writing. So yeah, man, it can be a bit tricky certain time. So Pink Lady come in,
yeah.
They sponsor me. That's when I get my picture in the paper.
Okay.
And then I get guaranteed slot now.
See.
So now the column is now 2 column widths. And it's down the side of the page. And I got a Pink Lady logo underneath it, and I have to be in the paper. So because I have to be in the paper, now Reggae has to be in the paper. Because one of the reasons I was able to get in was because there wasn't a lot of reggae being carried in the paper.
Right.
And this is the biggest black newspaper in Europe. It never made no sense. Never made no sense. So that was the heyday. Ran until 1996, and then
we're gonna stop right there because we're gonna take a break and we're gonna split this up into episodic bite-sized chunks, because the complaint that he gave on my last interview was that it was a long thing. Although it was informative, it was a long thing. It ran for 70
talk
minutes.
The things, lady, talk the things.
Yeah, man, talk the thing because it's my thing. Right? So we're gonna join you back in part 2 of this vlog. So stay tuned, don't go nowhere.